It's Wednesday, the 11th of October, 2023. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories, 5 minutes. Let's get going. Story number 1. National Australia Bank's monthly business survey has shown a welcome sign for inflation, with both labour and purchase price growth easing.
The survey is important because it tells us what's happening now in wages and prices rather than the Bureau of Statistics information, which pretty much tells us what's actually happened previously. NAB Chief Economist Alan Oster said the survey shows positive signs for inflation with cost pressures easing. Minimum wage hikes and volatile oil prices have impacted the reading, but definitely the overall trend is lower. That's good news because the Reserve Bank will keep interest rates at current levels or potentially lift them again if it doesn't think inflation is falling. While the third quarter official inflation stats aren't expected to be pretty, with energy, rents and a range of services likely to contribute to a jump in prices, the trend towards the end of the quarter was in the right direction.
Does that mean, Sean, and look at me, I've got my fingers crossed here, does that mean we might not get any more rate rises?
In short, Michael, yes, there are plenty of economists out there, including our own Stephen Koukoulas, who now believe the Reserve Bank doesn't need to do any more. The central bank itself hinted at that last meeting, saying it's waiting to see the full impact of the 4 percentage point hikes in rates in less than 18 months before it makes its next decision. Remember, it takes time for higher interest rates to flow through to the real economy. For example, only now are mortgage holders coming off fixed rate loans. Some economists even think the Reserve Bank has already lifted rates too much. We'll wait and see. One thing before I leave this story, the Westpac consumer sentiment figures were out yesterday. We're all pretty gloomy, really. The index rose, but it's still in negative territory. As Westpac senior economist Matthew Hassan said, optimism is in extremely short supply. Fears about inflation and interest rates are pretty much overwhelming everything else.
Story number 2, Sean, Bitcoin is again becoming the dominant cryptocurrency in the market.
It is. The crypto market is valued at $1.1 trillion US dollars. What's that? 1.6, 1.7 trillion Aussie dollars. That's up nearly 40% this year, according to a report on Bloomberg. Bitcoin's share of that market is 48.5%. Now, last time it had that bigger market share was back in May 2021. In contrast, the market share of Ether, the number 2 crypto, is down about 6%. Speculators tend to dump smaller tokens, head towards the larger ones when risks are mounting, and that's what's happening. In terms of value, it was a very strong first half of 2023 for Bitcoin. It appreciated nearly 90%. It's come off a bit since then, though. It's currently worth about $27,600 US dollars a unit.
Story number 3, Sean, is big news. The competition regulator has given the green light to Canada's Brookfield and its US-based partner EIG's $19 billion bid for Origin Energy.
The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission approved the deal, saying the likely public benefits will outweigh the likely disadvantages, and that sent Origin's share price up more than 5% yesterday. ACCC Chair Gina Cass-Gottlieb said the acquisition will likely result in an accelerated rollout of renewable energy generation, which should lead to a more rapid reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Energy Minister Chris Bowen welcomed the deal, saying he hoped it would bring additional investment to the nation's energy transition. The approval came on the condition of tightened commitments to maintain competition, but it didn't actually insist on any divestments from Brookfield. A bit of a surprise there. Not quite a done deal. It still needs Foreign Investment Review Board approval, which is likely. It also needs 75% approval from Origin Energy shareholders. That might be a little bit trickier. In fact, they might ask for a bit of a higher price. The original offer, $18.7 billion, was worth $8.91 a share in March, split between Aussie dollars and US dollar payments. Now, exchange rates have changed a bit. The value of the bid is now around $9.19 a share. Shareholders might want a bit more, but I reckon the deal will get done.
Sean, story number 4, a bit of good news for Virgin Australia. The airline has announced its first annual profit in 11 years.
Virgin, of course, is now owned by private equity group Bain Capital. Yesterday, it said it had made $129 million last financial year on the back of more than doubling its revenue to $5 billion. Good on it. Underlying earnings jumped to $439 million. That's before income tax, depreciation, that type of stuff. Now, that compares to Qantas's underlying earnings of nearly $2.5 billion. Still, pretty good result for Virgin. Airlines obviously haven't had a great time of it since COVID. In the 2022 fiscal year, Virgin lost $566 million. good turnaround. Chief Executive Jane Herdlicker said the profit was an important milestone, but the group was only partway through its multi-year journey. Virgin's on-time performance has improved, though it's behind Qantas still, and it plans to spend $110 million on cabin upgrades, including more seats on existing planes.
Story number 5 is a very serious one, Sean. The situation in the Middle East is deteriorating, with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu instructing the country's defense forces to prepare for a mass offensive against Hamas at an intensity that's never been seen before.
He ordered a complete siege of the Gaza Strip and also said that the Israeli government would do everything it could for the hostages taken by Hamas, while Hamas has threatened to kill one civilian hostage and broadcast it if Israel attacks the Gaza without notice. The death toll on both sides continue to rise. Globally, there's been condemnation of Hamas's incursion into Israeli territory. The US has warned Iran not to get involved in the crisis. There's also been pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian demonstrations around the world, including Sydney on Monday night, where anti-Semitic chanting was heard and the Israeli flag was burnt. Politicians locally have condemned that behaviour, with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese describing some of it as horrific.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Wednesday, the 11th of October, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. If 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed Business News wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.